Have you ever tried to change someone's mind about politics, religion, or even something like nutrition, only to end up in a full-blown argument where neither person budges an inch? You bring statistics, they bring feelings. You explain calmly, they dig in harder. The conversation fizzles out, and somehow both people walk away convinced they won. But what if the entire approach we've been using to persuade people is fundamentally backwards? What if there's a surprisingly simple psychological technique that gets people to question their own beliefs, without arguing, without insulting, without any manipulation at all? That's exactly what we're breaking down today. And there's one idea in particular that completely reshapes how you approach tough conversations. I'll save that one for the very end, because it might be the single most useful takeaway in this entire video. Let's break this down into 4 parts, plus a final takeaway. Part 1. Why arguing almost never actually works. Think back to your last online argument. Maybe it was in the comments section, a group chat, or even at the dinner table with family. Did anyone actually walk away with a changed opinion? Probably not. That's because people aren't really protecting facts. They're protecting their sense of identity. Once a belief becomes tangled up with who someone is, challenging that belief starts to feel like a personal attack. That's exactly why mountains of evidence still fail to convince anyone. Persuasion was never really about winning. It's about sparking enough curiosity that someone starts questioning themselves on their own. Notice that distinction. One approach builds resistance. The other builds reflection. That one shift changes absolutely everything. Part 2. The mistake nearly everyone makes. Picture 2 people debating whether remote work is actually more productive. One person spends 5 minutes laying out research and data. The other keeps cutting them off mid-sentence. Before long, they're competing on volume instead of substance. Sound familiar? Now picture a completely different approach. Instead of arguing back, someone simply asks, "What would actually change your mind on this?" That question seems harmless on the surface. But psychologically, it's remarkably effective, because suddenly, the other person has to actually think instead of instinctively defend their position. And that's the pattern behind effective persuasion. Instead of trying to deliver better arguments, learn to ask better questions. Simple in theory, but genuinely rare in practice. Part 3. The detail most people completely miss. Here's something worth sitting with. People love feeling right, but they absolutely hate being told they're wrong. Those 2 things sound similar, but they're actually opposites. There are specific conversational tools that lower someone's defenses before you ever introduce a new idea. Instead of saying, "That's incorrect," you gently ask, "How confident are you in that? What's that based on? What would it take to change your mind here?" These questions quietly dissolve emotional walls. The conversation suddenly feels safe instead of confrontational, and that's when people actually become open to exploring new ideas. This isn't manipulation at all. It's genuine, respectful curiosity. And that's precisely why it works so well. Part 4. The single most powerful idea here. This is the concept I promised earlier. Real persuasion doesn't happen while you're talking. It happens while the other person is thinking. Read that again, because it matters. The goal was never delivering some perfectly worded argument. The goal is helping someone genuinely examine their own beliefs on their own terms. That's a massive distinction. Most people assume persuasion means talking more convincingly. In reality, persuasion actually means guiding someone's thought process instead. And once that distinction clicks, you'll never approach a difficult conversation the same way again. And now, the final takeaway. If you've ever struggled to get through to your parents, your partner, your boss, your friends, or even total strangers online, this mindset shift is genuinely worth adopting. Not because it teaches you how to win every argument, but because it teaches something far more valuable. How to hold conversations where people actually listen to you. In a world where everyone is trying to talk over each other, very few people actually know how to guide a real discussion. That's the true lesson here. Before you go, answer this in the comments. What's the hardest conversation you've ever had where absolutely nobody budged? I genuinely love to hear your stories. Subscribe if you enjoy practical breakdowns on psychology, communication, persuasion, and self-improvement, because every week we unpack powerful ideas that can genuinely change how you move through life. See you in the next one. Take care, friends.